Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Long Game. This is episode 1, where I'm going to introduce this channel to you and discuss a few reasons about why I'm here and why you might be here. We're going to go in depth with the channel introduction today. Then I'm going to give you a little bit about myself and why I'm here and why I'm doing this. And then we're going to discuss in detail why you're here listening to all of this. So let's get started. The goal for this channel is very simple. I want to introduce everyone to personal investment. It is a thrilling thing for me. I get personal pleasure out of personal investment, among other things. And so I want to introduce that fact to you. I want to be able to assist the absolute beginner. When I first got started, there was no information out there for a personal investor, and it was cross my fingers and hope I got lucky. So using my experiences, I'm going to walk through slowly the information that would have helped me when I first started investing, and so I'm hoping it's going to help you as well. And one of the other important goals for my channel is to be valid everywhere. So doesn't matter what market you're investing in, what country you're in, the value of the amount that you're investing, or the goals that you have. I want the information that I present to you here to be able to be something that you can use in your investing life. So when I compared other channels and viewed other channels, what I noticed is that a lot of them throw you into the deep end. I already had experience when I started looking at YouTube investment channels, and a lot of the stuff that I saw was at best intermediate skill level. It assumed that you had knowledge level of the market, even though they said they're assuming that you know nothing. No, there were a lot of assumptions made based on what they were saying, stuff that I knew that I know they didn't talk about. A lot of the stuff that they're presenting to you on other channels, frankly, in my opinion, is gambling. It's not investment. So they give you these tips, these tricks, these manipulation methods, and it's basically focused on get in, get paid, and get out. That's not investment. That is, in my opinion, gambling. And if that's what you want to do, then by all means, you should do those things. But this channel is for absolute beginners, and I'm not going to be able to help you with those things. I don't do them. I have very little experience with them, and the experience that I have is negative. So take what I give you, but then you're probably going to need to go elsewhere for that type of information. The goal of this channel is simple. I'm going to try and do two to three videos a week. And then on Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to post a Q&A day video, and we're going to talk more about Q&A day towards the end of this video. Some future topics, and this is not in any order. We're going to discuss how and when to pick a brokerage, what that even means, and when to do it. I'm going to discuss types of stock quotes that you will see on those brokerages and how you can read them to get the most information for your investing life. I'm going to discuss my investing rules and give you tips and tricks on how to create your own investing rules to guide you through your investing life. The most difficult thing that we're going to talk about on this channel very likely is going to be initial public offerings. If you want to invest in IPOs, that's something that I also have an interest in, but IPOs are the most risky thing that I do, and I'm doing that for long-term investment purposes, not for get in, get paid, get out. So why am I here? And more specifically, who the quadruple X are you? I'm certain that's a question you're asking. Fill in those X's with your choice of expletive. I won't be mad. So let's start off with some basic statistics about me and my career. I am going on 50 years old. So retirement for me is right around the corner. I hold a doctorate in computer engineering, and I am currently working as a software engineer for a company here in South Texas. Prior to that, I was a university professor at 2 different universities across 4 years. We will talk about that a little bit later in this video as well. Hobbies, I like writing. I've been writing since I was a young adult. I've written probably every type of writing there is: poetry, short stories. I wrote a few novels, a couple of novels when I was younger. Right now, the main stuff that I write is screenplays and teleplays. And my reason for doing those is because it's closer to what I do as a software engineer. It allows me to be creative within structure. So I like writing teleplays and screenplays. Nothing's published. Nothing probably will ever be published. Something I took up very recently was fencing. I've stopped fencing since I took it up. I fenced for a few years after grad school in 2012 through 2015. I like the sport. I watch it when the Olympics is on. I'll watch videos of it on YouTube. I like sports in general, all sorts of sports, not just the big 4. I recently saw something from Southeast Asia which looked like 3-person volleyball using your feet, which I thought that was really interesting. My main hobby at the moment is investing, and it's not only beneficial to me, but I really enjoy what I do, and I want to share that enjoyment with all of you. I first started investing because of the very first X-Men movie. That long ago, sometime in the mid to late 90s, when I opened my first investment account. I've had that account this entire time. I still have that account. I've opened another account and closed it since. I've had a couple other accounts that I've had based on retirement funds. My investment life has been mostly dormant until recently, at least personal investment has been mostly dormant until recently, when I realized that I don't have anything safe for retirement. And as again, I'm almost 50. I am probably not going to be able to retire, although my recent retirement has given me a little glimmer of hope. At some point we will talk about how I'm doing in my investment life, not this video, but we will talk about it eventually. Right now, I have a medium-term goal, which is purchase 1 or 2 duplexes and rent them out. I think that is my best chance at having a comfortable retirement. So now we're going to discuss, for the majority of the rest of this video, we're going to discuss why you're here. The core reasons that people look at private or personal investment, these are those 3 core reasons, and this I get from talking with other people about investing, about why they want to. This is the first question you should answer for yourself. Why are you here? Usually your answer is going to fall within one of these 3 or multiples of these 3. Retirement savings, you want to secure your children's futures, and you also just want to increase your personal wealth. All of these things are perfectly valid reasons, and I would be willing to say that your specific reason probably falls within one of these 3, but it doesn't have to. You might want to invest for another personal reason, which is perfectly fine. Okay. So first, we're going to talk about retirement. And most of this is going to be US specific, so I apologize to anyone in a foreign country that's listening right now. But retirement in the United States is a #1 reason why people look, from people I've spoken with, is the #1 reason why most people look to personal investment. The reason why is because Social Security insurance, SSI, will likely be fully depleted sometime between the years 2025 and 2050. Oh yeah, 2025 is in 4 years. Our current president, Joseph Biden, is going to have to deal with this if he gets reelected, in all likelihood. Now, to be honest, most of the recent estimates that I've read have said that SSIs will be fully depleted by 2032. But even if it makes it to 2050, that's still in my lifetime. There will no longer be Social Security insurance, which means people that are younger than me, children, definitely don't have SSI to rely on. And as of late, the reason and the way the government's been able to extend the life of SSI is they've been encouraging people to not retire, to delay their retirement. So the current incentive to delay retirement is saying that they will give you 125% of your payment if you wait to retire until 72 instead of retiring at age 65. SSI is supposed to start paying you at age 65. Then they're trying to encourage you to make it age 72. And the 125% is the way they're encouraging you to do it. And the reason why they're doing it this way is because if you retire at 72 instead of 25, even if they're paying you 125%, that 7 years that they get between 65 and 72 on you that you don't pay, you're likely not going to see all of the money that you put into SSI. You're likely going to die before you take it all out. Even if you live to age 85, which is the average life expectancy in the United States, you're still not going to be able to take out all that you have put in, and that money can be used for somebody else. Why is it like this? This section for me, because this is a question I'm certain you're going to have, why is it like this? All I can do is speculate because I wasn't there. But my guess is that when SSI was first conceived by law, in order to get votes for people both voting for SSI itself and voting for re-election for people, what they did was they allowed people at age 65 or older to take money out of SSI even though they didn't put any money in. That turned Social Security insurance into a Ponzi scheme. People who were younger were paying for people who never paid into the system. That's not exactly a Ponzi scheme, but that's so close to it that it may as well be one. They could have solved this years ago, early on, by saying, we're going to have younger people pay more into the system so they can cover the people that are taking out that never paid in. That would have gone over like a lead balloon, but that's the only way that mathematically they could have solved this issue. Instead, they didn't solve it at all. They keep kicking the can down the road, and now we're at this point where SSI is going to be gone. Some other options besides personal investment that you should consider before opening a brokerage account. The number one method of investing for retirement in the United States is a 401k/457b account/plan. The reason it got this name is because it's part of the United States Code. I think it's the Civil Code. It is Book 26, United States Code, Section 401, subsection K. That is the code that establishes a 401k account, and that's why it's called a 401k account, because it comes directly from the law that established it. The other one, the 457B, similar, Book 26 of the United States Code, Section 457, subsection B. It's the same rules as 401k, except it's applied to public servants, and it also applies to state and local government workers as well as federal. So for the rest of this discussion, when I talk about 401k, 457B, I'm just going to say 401k because it literally is the same thing, just one is for private individuals and one's for public servants. The other option is a Roth or a traditional IRA account. IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account and is also encoded into the law, but I'm not certain where. I'm certain that the 401k account was going to be named IRA at some point, but it would end up being too confusing, and that's why they didn't do it. Advantages to a 401k. The number one advantage, and the reason why everybody looks for it when you're going for a new job, is the money is deposited into that account pre-tax. So what that means is the money that you dedicate to a 401k is taken from your gross wages before any taxes at all are assessed. So an example of this is if you made $2,000 in wages on gross wages on your check, that is the line where it says gross wages says $2,000 on it, and you put $100 into your 401k, your tax burden for gross wages is only $1,900. So this means that not only is that $100 tax-free, but it also reduces your tax burden right now. Double yay! Less taxes paid, and the money is tax-free when you put the money into the account. Peaches and cream? Not so much. Another advantage to the 401k plan is employer matching. That is an increase to the account that doesn't cost you a single cent at all. The employer is putting that money into your account. They're doing it to encourage you to put money into the 401k. A typical example, 100%, they will do a 100% maximum donation against 3 to 5% of your gross wages. So if you put in 5% of your gross wages, they're going to match 100% of what you put in. So to continue with the example, you have $2,000 in gross wages, you put in 100%, that's 5% of the gross. The employer is matching 100% up to 5%. They're going to put in $100, which means your 401k plan got a $200 deposit this check, and you only got taxed for $1,900 as opposed to $2,100. Here are the disadvantages because it's not all perfect. The number one disadvantage is that there's a limit on the amount that you can deposit per year. That is detrimental to older employees like myself especially. I believe what it is at the moment is $3,600 if you're under 50 and $5,000 if you're over 50. I think that's what it is, but double check with your company's human resources. They'll be able to tell you for certain. The second thing that you will see that's a disadvantage is you'll see employer match manipulation. So instead of matching 100%, they'll match less than 100%. And they're doing that because they only want to put in a certain amount. So let's say the employer only wants to put in $100 on your $2,000 in wages, but they want to encourage you to put in more than that $100. So they'll do something like, we're going to do 50% match on 10%. So 50% match on 10% means that you have to put in $200 for the employer to match with $100. It's still free money, but it's not as much as you could expect with a 100% match. And you have to put in more of your money in order to get it. Third disadvantage is that the investment offerings are restricted to whatever the financial company is offering as an investment. Now, there are some organizations that have huge numbers of different mutual funds to invest in. But the truth of the matter is those are mutual funds and not stocks. And you can invest in those mutual funds on your own. You don't need to invest through the company that's offering them. We'll talk a little bit more about mutual fund investment in the next video. Lastly, if you need the money in an emergency, you can either borrow the money against your 401k at interest, and the interest rate that you pay is based on the interest rate that you would have earned if you'd left the money in, which is going to be higher than a standard loan. It's, 401ks do generally return better interest than straight savings, and it's better interest than straight savings. But if you're borrowing the money, you have to pay that interest back as well. You have to pay yourself the money you would have made if you left the money in. The other disadvantage is that you can pull the money out, but not only do you have to pay taxes on it immediately, but you also have to pay a tax penalty. This is the thing that got me when I had to withdraw from 401ks and 457bs as a university professor. So for more information, you should contact your company or organization's human resource department. The next type of personal retirement investment that you might want to consider is a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Roth IRAs tend to be created from conversions of 401ks. That is, you got a 401k at a company, you're leaving that company, you're converting that to a Roth IRA while you're away from the company. You can also start a Roth IRA on your own. You don't have to start it with a 401k. If you start it up on your own, you're funding the money out of your own pocket post-tax. I believe a Roth IRA offers tax benefits if you withdraw at retirement age. Retirement age for IRAs tend to be lower than retirement age for SSI. Again, you will be told to talk with the personal financial advisor that sets up the Roth IRA for you. And a traditional IRA is the original solution to SSI issues. You put your own money in, you're given a wide range of mutual funds to select from, you try to keep your portfolio as balanced as possible, and you get a decent return rate. Certainly better than saving for yourself or just in a standard savings account. And it alleviates the issues that we're facing with Social Security. Advantages to these types of IRAs is that they're everywhere. So they are literally one of the easiest investment vehicles for you to put in. You put your money in, you select the mutual funds you want to be invested in, and then once a month you put more money into the account, and that's it. Or once every so often. It doesn't even have to be monthly. It's whenever you want to put the money in, you put the money in because it's coming out of your own pocket. Usually the financial advisor will try to set up a transfer from your account, from your checking account, an automatically monthly transfer from your checking account into the IRA somehow, especially if you're doing this with a bank. The disadvantages are the deposit limits are lower than a 401k. I believe the deposit limits for IRAs are $2,500 and $3,600 if you're older. If you convert a 401k into a full Roth IRA, you cannot convert it back. And that happens if you decide to make a deposit into the 401k while you're not working with a company that supports that 401k plan, that turns into an IRA immediately. It turns into a Roth IRA immediately. The type of IRA actually is dependent on the company that your 401k is created with. What they want you to do with this is keep the 401k, hold it, go to another company and try to convince that company to have an IRA with the same company that or have a 401k plan with the same company that you're part of. That way you can convert your 401k back and keep growing it. Another disadvantage is if you need to withdraw the money early in an emergency, there's taxes and penalties that be paid. There is no borrowing against an IRA. If you withdraw, it's taxed and penalized. So for more information, contact your company's human resource department or the personal financial advisor that you're talking to when you set up your Roth and traditional IRA. If you're using a personal financial advisor, make certain you read the documentation that they give you very closely. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of words. There'll be both a brochure and a prospectus. Definitely read the brochure, try to read the prospectus and the disclaimer documentation. Another reason why you might be here right now is because you want to secure your children's future. And again, this is mostly US specific. And the reason why is because of the option. Now, there might be an option similar to you in your country. You need to investigate that with a personal financial advisor. But some of the reasons that you want to help with your children's future is you want them to have a better start in life than you did. And that's an extremely important thing to give to your kid if you can. You also want them to not worry about their educational goals. If you plan correctly, I know people, I've heard of people putting their kid 100% through medical school without it costing their kid a dime. That is generally about 200 to 250 grand. Now, we're going to discuss that in a moment. That is a used to be from a long time ago. Your best bet is an educational IRA. An educational IRA works almost exactly like a traditional IRA with a couple of exceptions and additional caveats. The number one exception is that it's controlled by a trustee, which is mainly going to be the parent. At the time that your child turns 24 and a half, they are able to then take control of the educational IRA if there's any money left in the account. So, why 24 and a half? Because 24 and a half is the age where the United States government says that a child is financially responsible. So, let's review. A child is a, quote, legal, end quote, adult at 18, but they are not considered financially independent of their parents until 24 and a half. So even though your child is a legal adult, you're financially responsible for them for another 6.5 years. Just saying. What will happen is between 18 and 24 and a half, if your child chooses to go to a university or vocational school, you can add that university or vocational school as a restricted trustee, and that university or that extra educational school will be able to pull tuition out of the student's educational IRA. But they are only going to be able to pull out cash on hand. They're not going to be able to sell anything. They're not going to be able to sell mutual fund shares. They're not going to be able to sell stock, depending on where you got the educational IRA. They can only pull out cash. So it's still going to be up to the trustee to generate the cash in the account that the restricted trustee can pull out. Sounds great, right? Advantages are mostly the same as a traditional IRA. You're putting the money in. The additional advantage is you're reducing the stress on yourself and your kid on paying for school. Another advantage to an educational IRA is that you can use it to teach your children about investing. Like, they can be there next to you, watching you invest. And depending on how trustworthy you think your kid is, you may even give them control a little bit, where you log into the account and let them take control of what to invest in and what to not invest in. I don't suggest doing that for every single stock in their account, but you can teach your kids the things that you didn't know, and the reason why we're all here now. Giving your kid a better start in the future. But the disadvantages to an educational IRA is that they have very, very limited deposits. When I last looked at it, the maximum you could deposit in an educational IRA was $500 a year. So before a traditional IRA, you could deposit $3,600 a year or $2,500 a year. Your 401k, it's $3,600 a year. Educational IRA, $500 a year. Unless you start the moment your kid is conceived, you're too late. And even if you do start when your kid is conceived or born, and you're perfect, so you make all the right moves and you're always gaining on those accounts, based on the way educational costs have increased in the United States, at this time, you're probably only going to be able to cover in-state public tuition. If you want more information on an educational IRA, you should speak to the personal financial advisor that's setting it up for you. It's very unlikely that this is available to you through your work. One of the things I want to point out about the limitation to deposits on all of these accounts, especially the 401k, is once you reach that limit, if you continue to deposit, you don't have any of the tax advantages. You get taxed on it extra. So once you've reached the limit, making the deposit makes little sense. The problem is with 401ks and with employer-backed IRAs, you really can't stop the depositing either. So darned if you do, darned if you don't. Last reason why you might be here is you want to generate personal wealth, which is a perfectly valid reason you want to get rich. Don't blame you. You have some short or medium-term goals for your wealth that you've set out, or some long-term other than retirement goals that you've set out. This one, long-term other than retirement, what I hear a lot when people say they want to do personal investment, what I hear a lot is that they want to be able to travel at will whenever they want. When they retire, they want to be able to pick up and go just because they said so, and not have to worry about the bills at home and being able to afford the trip. Perfectly valid reason. I understand. I like travel. I have wanderlust myself. In fact, since 2006, I've relocated 5 or 6 times. So I was in the Southern California area in 2006, and I relocated a bunch of times inside of Southern California. I don't even want to talk about that part. But I went from LA to Dallas. I moved to Murray, Kentucky for my first professor position. Moved to the United States Virgin Islands for my second professor position. Now I live in San Antonio, Texas for my final position. Those last 3 moves all occurred starting 2014. I moved 3 times in the past 7 years. And really the only way to increase your personal wealth is through personal investment. The IRAs and stuff don't really count. Now, slightly before the dot-com bubble busted, or not the dot-com bubble, the housing bubble busted. Slightly before that, there were some banks that were offering a down payment IRA where you could use money to save for the down payment for a home. And what basically happened there is you set how much you wanted to pay for your home, and the cap on that IRA was 20% of the down payment. 20% of the house value was a down payment, so that's how much you would save before the account would close, and the money would come back to you automatically. Personal investment isn't just the stock market, so we will get into that in the next video, but as examples, bonds, certificates of deposit, other standard savings accounts, in addition to some of the other things that you can do with personal IRAs and personal Roths. We'll get into those things in the next video. The advantages to personal investment are you can save as much or as little as you want. With the exception of IRAs, there is no limit. You just put the money in the account and be done with it. Depending on the account you open, especially if you're opening a stock account, there's no limit on the investment selection. You buy what you want. Stock, mutual fund, exchange traded fund, ETF. Buy what you want, sell what you want, do it whenever you want, which again, those are limits with IRAs and 401ks. You can't do what you want the instant you want to do it. And ultimately, if you need the money now, you can withdraw without penalty to a certain extent. We'll talk about that sort of in a second. There are disadvantages to personal investment. The main disadvantage is there's usually little or no help. When I started off, there was no real help. This is me being Mighty Mouse. Here I am to save the day. That's the only impression I'm ever going to give, and I probably should have done that. There are no tax advantages to personal investment. In fact, in a number of countries, the US included, it's taxed differently. In the United States, it's taxed as a capital gain or loss. So I'm going to explain that because I believe there are some other countries that do the same thing. A capital gain or loss is considered a gain or a loss on a major purchase, in quotes. So, as an example, you buy a house in the United States for $200,000. You decide later on that you want to sell that house for $300,000. You have $100,000 in capital gains. That $100,000 is taxed differently than standard income. So, even though it looks like there's little or no help, there is more choices on who to go to and who to speak with. So first, you can go and speak to a personal financial advisor. If you're opening a brokerage account through a bank or through some of the other means, there will be people there who will be available to help you, but they're not really going to be able to talk to you about taxes. In fact, they'll give you a disclaimer saying that they can't talk to you about taxes because they're not a tax professional. Okay, so go find one. Go talk to a CPA about the tax implications of capital gains and losses and how that will affect you if you decide to open a personal investment account, as well as the type of personal investment account. It's not just that you open a personal investment account. You want to talk to a tax professional about the type of account. And lastly, go talk to the tax man directly. In the United States, that's the Internal Revenue Service. In the downtime of year, which is usually now, this is beginning of September, usually now, the tax office isn't busy. You call them up, you ask questions, and they're more than willing to provide answers. And you get it straight from the horse's mouth about what your tax implications are, what forms you have to find, what forms you have to fill out. Even if it's during tax time, and right now it's still kind of tax time because we had a delayed tax season, an extended tax season because of the reasons we all know. But even during tax season, you should be able to find either a recording or you can go to their website and pull down frequently asked questions list about subtopics of taxes and get the answers that you want directly from the horse's mouth. So now we're going to close out the video. Clearly, you're going to have questions on this video. I probably only generated some. I didn't answer them all, certainly. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look through the comments section for this video. And if you see your question in the comment section for this video, put a like on that question. If you don't see your question, add your question to the comments list so other people that see it can like it. In fact, even if you think you don't have questions, look through the comments, look at other people's questions because they may have asked a question that you didn't realize you had. Click the like button on that question because you're going to go, oh yeah, that is a question. Click like, I'll see it. I'm going to review the videos for the week on Friday or Saturday. I'll only review on Saturday if I post a Friday video. Otherwise, I'm going to review videos on Friday. I'm going to look for the most liked questions and I'm going to put them in a video for Q&A day, which I'll most likely try to post Saturday and definitely post it by Sunday. Once I cover a video on Q&A day, I'm not going to cover it again, so you should vote at ASAP. You should either post or vote as quickly as possible, as soon as you know you have a question. Early on in this channel's life, because there are so few subscribers, I may go back and review the older videos and see if the questions have changed. I won't answer a question that I've already answered, but if there's a new question that's popped up that I think should be covered, I will. But eventually it's going to get to the point where I'm only going to answer questions from the previous week. This represents the end of the video, so as with everybody else, like, share, and subscribe. If you like the content of this video, please click the like button. And what that does is people that YouTube determines are similar to you will see this video in their homepage stream. Thank you for recommending my video. If you have friends or family that are looking to start investing, click the share icon and send the link to this video to them by text message or email. They'll get to see the exact same information you just saw. If you're interested in my newest or next content, which I'm going to try to do soon, click the subscribe button. And what the subscribe button does is on your homepage, you'll see a little icon with my picture on it. And on that icon in the lower right corner, there'll be a blue dot. Also, if you go to subscriptions, you'll see my icon with a blue dot in the lower right corner, saying that indicates I've posted a new video. And if you want full information about when I post my next video, activate notifications. You'll get a pop-up on your mobile device, and I believe there's a way to make your notification section on Windows 10 show YouTube notifications. If you know how to do that, please put that in the comments so I'll learn something from posting my own video. That's it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you get as much out of this as I get for posting the videos. I really do like investing. I really think that everybody should have the opportunity to get it done. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.